The process of manufacturing and assembling the components of a building or a construction project off-site before transporting them to the construction site for final installation and commissioning, also known as prefabrication, is not particularly new to the global MEP industry. Although there seem to be obvious benefits in terms of the reduction in construction wastage, fewer booths on site, resultant cost and time benefits, safer and more controlled working environments for plumbers, electricians, and HVAC technicians, as well as its impact on the carbon footprint of a building, yet there still is a bit of resistance in the Middle East region to the adoption of this technology at scale. From prefabricated components such as pre-insulated AC and piping ducts to prefabricated MEP modules as well as fully integrated assemblies, some experts in the industry have pointed to the quality of the products on site as a clear and obvious reason to move in this direction, while others have called for a stronger regulatory approach to ensure that the industry moves forward. Without further ado, let's welcome Rejil Kumar, the General Manager at WML, Mohammad ElTaha, the Operations Director at ETTS, Tom Main, the Project Manager at ALEMCO, Marina Kindelan, the Associate Façade Consultant at AESG, and Avinash Kumar, the Associate Partner at GAG. Thank you all for joining us here today and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Rejil, let's get started with you. Could you give us an overview of why prefabrication has not been taken to scale within the industry? Is there perhaps a mindset that needs to be addressed?
I think much has been spoken about prefabrication in the last 5-6 years, more on the capabilities and the advantages it accrues, the speed at which you can actually do these things, the quality, the risk part, which is much lesser. All of that's having said, has the industry really adopted what we want to do in the way we want to do it? Probably not. So the three things which I would like to talk about is, one is the industry which we are in. It's a very transient industry. Number two is about the big picture of the processes which need to adopt to kind of change the way we are doing things from many, many years of doing things in a certain way. And lastly, the culture piece, which is very, very important because you're having multiple stakeholders coming in and they're all talking together and they're coming together and they're working together. So it's very, very important that the culture piece fits in every single project. It's not guaranteed that you have a success in one project and it gets translated to another one because the teams are changing. So if I was to kind of detail each one of them, if you look at the piece on the industry transient nature, this is an industry compared to any other industry, whether it's manufacturing or any of the other industries. This industry is very transient in its nature. Everything is coming in and going out. Teams are coming in, teams are going out. You just come together for a certain amount of time and you need to kind of all perform together, get into a zone and perform together, which is a difficult thing. There are a couple of things which happens when you go into a project. You're co-located. You are driven by the contracts. The client is probably looking at time and how fast he wants to do that. But actually what happens on site is there is a lot of chaos. And that doesn't lend itself to being more efficient or how do you drive efficiencies when you're actually doing things. It's more about getting to the end goal rather than how you do it. The second point is on process or the bigger picture. And that's something which all the stakeholders need to consider. And it involves things like how you do design, how do you plan, how do you package your contracts, and how do you monitor the contracts. Even things like how do you certify a contract? Because can you imagine certifying a job when the job has not yet happened on site? Because it's already happened somewhere else. It's off-site, and is the industry prepared to look at that? So these are the points which needs to be adopted so that all of us can kind of come together on ensuring that we have a greater success on prefabrication. The last point is on culture and the reality of culture and structures which are currently prevalent in this industry. If you see most of the project organizations, they're highly siloed because they've got a history of how they work. Civil is there, and then you have MEP, which has got mechanical, electrical. You'll probably find a discipline head for electrical, a discipline head for mechanical. This is a structure which happens. And when you have this kind of a structure, everybody's thinking in silos. Whereas when we look at prefabrication, we're looking at space. It doesn't matter whether it's civil, whether it's MEP, whatever it is. It's all what goes into that space.
Thank you, Rejil, for touching upon the transient nature, processes, and people. It's very well said. Mohammad, that comes to you as a question next. Is there a need for the industry as a whole to step out of its comfort zone and probably reintroduce a learning mindset?
Yeah, exactly. What we are doing as in our company, so we used to introduce a prefab option from day one in any project. So for the past maybe 7 years, we decided to think out of the box. We decided to think prefab. So what we have done, we started introducing the prefab option in each and every single project. So we used to present the system. We used to show the advantages, disadvantages, what are the benefits. But the clients always have this kind of resistance just for the idea, because they believe when you are talking about the advantages that you are saving in terms of time, and also you are cutting or reducing number of manpower. So they believe that you are reducing or you have value engineering. So they are expecting in return to give them a saving. And they're expecting that we are deviating from their specs. In fact, the premium we are paying for extra for the prefab is something, it tends to be a saving at the end of the day, because cost of recovery is very high, and it depends on the availability of manpower by the time you need it. It's all coming from lack of experience in the system, lack of knowledge. So it's giving us also a chance to enter into that point of where we have to come, like the angle we have to come to the client. So what we decided, okay, we told them, while the building's still not constructed, let's do, in order to answer all those concerns, because the concerns all coming, like how are you going to fix it inside the building, how are you going to access the systems, how are we going to connect, because it's something new for them. So we decided to construct or to install on the ground a full floor. So once we have done that, the client and the engineer, they were very happy, satisfied, because they have seen something physical. It's not something like they will imagine. So it's becoming a fact for them. They can feel the benefit of the system.
Thank you, Mohammad. I think you've touched upon a very important point in terms of focusing on the benefits of prefab. Yeah. And we've spoken at length about the benefits of prefab, lower construction wastage, fewer booths on site. Avinash, let's go to you in terms of the benefits, specifically in terms of sequencing, designing, and packaging. From your perspective, what benefits does prefabrication have in this regard?
Yeah, hi. I'm an architect basically, and I'm involved from the concept design till handover of the project. So I work closely with all the contractors on site, and I'm seeing them how they work in the conventional manner where, as Rejil said, I mean, there's a chaos on site when it goes to the MEP stage, because there will be people painting the wall, there will be people putting the final ID products, or and in the same way they will be putting all MEP hangers, MEP fixtures, and all those things. So what prefabrication helps in that we change the sequence, and activities go in parallel, which is normally doesn't work when it's a conventional way of construction. So, for example, MEP, everything goes in factory or in workshop, and your finishing items, they go on site. And when the right time comes, they just bring the things on site and fix it. So in a way, it helps to reduce time, and construction is all about time, cost, and scope. So one of the major factors is that we save time, and in a way, we save money also.
Tom, would you like to add to that in terms of the benefits of sequencing, designing, and packaging, but also touch upon the need for construction stakeholders to possibly work together better in order to bring the most out of this technology?
Yeah, just to touch on the design side, a good example of that is what we've done. We've gone through Hilti to incorporate their rivet families into our model and into our rivet model. So what we're able to do is create modular solution where the frames are incorporated into our model, which helps speed up the process as well. And within 7 to 10 days, we have a fully built frame ready to install services in a workshop environment. From the stakeholders' point of view, 100%, you need all stakeholders to be involved. I would say the biggest pinch point when it comes to prefabrication is late change. Once you've started prefabricating, it's very tough to incorporate any change once the process has started. That late change can come from any stakeholder. Firstly, internally, from managing our subcontractors, internal coordination, coordination with the fit-out contractor, with the wet trades, with consultant inputs, and this quite a big one is late client changes as well. So if everyone's on the same page working together, you'll definitely see the benefits of prefabrication.
Thank you, Tom, for your insights. I think you've touched upon a very important point there again. Like you said, late changes can't always be accommodated, especially when you're talking about prefabrication on site. And Marina, that comes to the next question. Yes, it's important for stakeholders to collaborate together on site, but it's also important to integrate technologies together, especially in a day and age where we're seeing different stakeholders using different technologies and sometimes even the same technology, like Tom mentioned, Revit, being used in different ways. How important is it to integrate these technologies better to get the most out of prefabrication?
So you have a really good point. So mainly we have seen during the past years that there has been a lot of development in terms of the softwares and on the techniques of the construction industry. But while I can see a lot of success on these programs or these softwares on their specific task, I can see a lack of coordination between of them. So it's really important to pay attention on how this information is created to make sure that it's efficient. And the MEP contractors and the FM, the facility management, and also the commissioning team, they can share all the information without repeating work, like needing to do it again or created again this information. So the way that we are leading the change is mainly using our own digital commissioning handover and asset management tool that mainly, or platform mainly. What that does is like we create, together with the design team, we kind of create all this information through the design stage, construction and operations, and that can be shared later on with the different stakeholders. So that it just makes everything easier, and you make sure that there is no miscoordination in all these terms. And then the next step, and I say that this is kind of like where we are looking towards, is like more to the digital twins. Right. That with that information, you can compare with how the building is performing, with the sensors in the building. So you can compare how it's being designed, how it should perform, and how it's really performing, and do all the adjustments necessary.
Wonderful. I'm going to take a step back and go back into a topic that we touched upon. Tom, Mohammad, and Rejil touched upon the need for clients to be added, to take a bigger role in this adoption of this technology. Rejil, when we were talking off camera, you mentioned to me that there are clients in Saudi Arabia, for example, and clients in the region who are starting to show an interest in prefabrication.
Like you said, and like most of the discussion here, projects are a confluence of stakeholders. They've got multiple people coming in. And if you want to have prefabrication succeed, it's important that the aspects of this is understood and capitalized right in the beginning. The earlier, the better. We have firstly the consultant. They need to adopt and see what are the new possibilities, because they've been working in a certain way because they, for example, they want to inspect material on the site. But most of the material comes to the factory. So why get materials and have double handling of materials? So this mindset of how do we kind of change to this new way of working is something which consultants need to look at. Then we are here as a prefabricator of these assemblies. We have a role to kind of, at this current moment, to bring all of these stakeholders together, because we probably have seen this happening across many projects, and we have the learnings and we can actually educate. So we do that bit. And also what we need is, we need help from the contractor. For example, we need all the materials at one go. It's like a car assembly. If you don't have a single pipe, my entire thing will come to a stop. Right. So that's makes it so important for us to kind of communicate these requirements well in advance and have everybody in the site appreciate the requirements. And finally, the client. And the client is higher in the food chain. He's got a say which is much earlier, and probably his say is kind of heard down the levels across the contractors and consultants and so on and so forth. He has a very critical role in actually trying to break these different silos we spoke about, the MEP, the civil, the mechanical, the consultant, and integrate all of them. And that's where you accrue advantages. So it's very important that the client actually drives these efficiencies, understands these efficiencies and how we can drive it, and actually kind of employ these methods earlier on so that he actually can, the whole project can see the benefit through the entire life cycle of the project. Having said that, does it happen here? Yes and no. But have you seen it in other places? Yes, we've seen it. We've seen it, like you said, in Saudi. We have seen projects where it's being planned at this moment. We've had consultants coming up to us and saying that the client is asking me for the new project which I'm designing, that I need to take care of everything which is required for prefabrication. Can you help us to understand this? So we're seeing that kind of a push, which in very large-scale projects in Saudi should accrue advantages. I guess it's going to happen in the next few months, but we will soon see those advantages. So in conclusion, the main advantages in breaking the silos, and as we spoke about technology, the whole aspect of 3D BIM is integrating this entire thing. And even if you look at what's happening on the software part of it, there is a lot of fabrication intent coming into it. So as a result, this is an environment which is encouraging the silos to be broken and drive efficiencies through this entire integrated process. And for making all of this happen, you need somebody who have this competing pressure, whether it's the client or it's the project leadership, or if in case it could be a regulatory authority in certain cases. If they are able to drive this synergies, then it's better and easier for advantages to accrue.
Wonderful. And I hear you, Rejil, in terms of breaking silos and getting early involvement of all stakeholders across the supply chain. But that also brings us to the concept that we spoke about right at the start of this discussion, in terms of the fact that prefabrication, like Mohammad said, is not new. This has been there. This has been around for a while, for almost 5 years. And yet, even 5 years down the line, we're still at a stage where we're creating awareness, where we're trying to convince people. And everyone, especially given the current market situation with low margins and high competition, everyone's focusing on cost efficiencies and time efficiencies. And I think that's become almost the biggest selling point.
Yeah, so definitely there's a lot of benefits. Firstly, time benefits. There's definite time benefits with regards to you now doing majority of the work off-site, which can be done out of sequence. So you can get the bulk of the work done in your own time, and you don't have to fit in line with that construction sequence, which obviously reduces the amount of time required on-site within a sequence. From a cost side, there's reduction in wastage, there's reduction in reworks, and also clashes on site is reduced dramatically. Other benefits, I would say, include logistics. You're now managing built products being installed as opposed to different elements with different subcontractors trying to manage that whole process. Prefabrication does help in that. And lastly, quality. You're obviously now working in a factory-like environment, so your quality of work is a lot better, which obviously leads to the client getting a better quality product at the end of the day. And I think a lot of the time and cost benefits can be seen all the way through to the client if you've got enough volume and you've got enough repetition of modular or prefabricated services. Those benefits can be shared by all stakeholders.
Wonderful. And Avinash, I'm going to ask you the same question in terms of time and cost efficiencies, because you're coming in from a design and architectural perspective. How can prefabrication prevent time and cost overruns?
Yeah. In construction, time equals money. I mean, you save time, you'll be saving money ultimately. I'll give an example. We are doing an arcade in Abu Dhabi. The structure was sort of delayed because of supply chain issues by 3 months. And that meant that the MEP and the final fixes will be delayed by 3 months. So in between then we decided that what exactly are the mitigation factors. And then we just proposed that, okay, let's start the MEP in advance as prefabricated modules. And since everything was drawn in BIM, so we had like 3D models of all the items and all the elements of the MEP. So it was easy for us to just make modules. And together with the contractors, we came up with some efficient modules. And the day contractors started like putting the steel beams for the roof, we started in parallel in factory the MEP modules. And the day exactly the roof got like inspected and ready for next activity, the MEP modules were on site. And without wasting a single day, we started putting that in. So in a way, we saved a lot of time, and that's the way forward.
Right, but there's also a need to look at the project overall life cycle. And so when you're talking about the initial capex costs are high, we also know that over a long period of time, it makes sense. And like Avinash mentioned, there have been supply chain issues, but there have been a lot of other issues. And it makes sense that certain companies are protecting themselves, certain stakeholders are protecting themselves and their families. But Mohammad, is there a need for companies to look past their comfort zones and, look past their de-risking concerns and address the need for the industry to move forward as a whole? Is that even a reality?
Yeah, I believe, yes, it's always a reality. We have to believe in it because risk is always there in our construction. So what we have to do, being experienced enough in the market and having the knowledge of the system, we'll be able to analyze the risk of any project, what's coming risk. It's always the trend in the market, like whoever be blamed always is the MEP, because for any delay in the project, MEP will come in between. So you have to shrink the activity of the MEP. It's always burdens on the MEP work. So coming from this point, yes, we believe that the risk is always high, like the availability of resources, the compensation in terms of quality, like Tom said, like the quality, it's benchmark quality for prefab. So we always believe the risk associated with not executing prefab is much higher than the risk of having prefab in place. Like I would like to give an example for one of the real projects which we have done recently. The rejection was fast-track project. The rejection is due, our submission rejection is due to the risk of delaying the project. So in terms, like during the project course of execution, the project got delayed by more than 30%. It's really impossible to recover all those delays. So the client, it starts to promote the prefab option that you guys can recover because you have prefab. So the knowledge, it's already there with the client. So he started promoting it. So by the time of construction, still the project not ready. Our prefab modules stacked in a laydown area next to the site, waiting only clearances just to enter. So we do believe, yes, we should have like a kind of platform input for client contractor to share their knowledge, their lessons learned, areas of improvement. It's all coming from the knowledge, from the learning, which we talked about it. So the knowledge will give you the assessment, the proper assessment of the risk associated. So yes, we believe we have to, even if not ready, the market, we have to insist and make it ready just for this. So it is possible, yes, we believe that.
Wonderful. I like the way you said it also in terms of the fact that construction always has risk. Yeah. But the risks associated with prefabrication is lesser than the risks associated with conventional methods of construction. 2020 has been a difficult year. We all know that. And Marina, this is coming to you. But there have also been positives that have come out of 2020. There's been an increased focus on people. There's been an increased focus on values. And keeping that in mind, Marina, could you touch upon the importance that prefabrication has placed to health and safety, as well as values such as energy efficiency and sustainability?
Certainly, 2020 has really given a push for a more efficient way to construct and also a more sustainable way. And this is coming back to all the benefits of the prefabrication. One thing that I wanted to kind of get a little bit more deep on is in the safety and the security of building without prefabrication systems. You remove the almost the major hazards from site. So you are removing a lot of the risk from the site. And at the same time, you are optimizing the whole design. This is coming also online to the sustainability part. So you are doing a design that is optimized to minimize the amount of material required, also minimizing the waste of the material. And also that waste, in general, it can be kind of going back to a recycled process instead of going to the landfill that is happening at the moment on the normal or the common construction procedure. So I think, touching base, I think apart from all the benefits related to cost, quality control, it's really important to take into account the safety and the sustainability and making sure that we understand that these products are going to come more efficient, they're going to work properly. So that means it's connected with the energy efficiency of the building.
And that's really nicely put. Before we conclude, I want to throw a question open to everybody, and you can go in turns to answer it. Is there a need for a stronger regulatory approach? I mean, different people I've spoken to have different opinions based on this, but do you think that a stronger regulatory approach can possibly improve the adoption of prefabrication within the market? Mohammad, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I believe, yes, we need that. In fact, it's more into organizing the data, organizing the information, adopting the prefab option within the specs. This is the job of us as well as the engineer. So during preparing for the tender, they have to accommodate all those parts, the installation, so that will not face the resistance later on of applying for the system. Also, there should be a procedure of approving prefab. We cannot just allow for anyone just to go prefab, because you can see it now in the market. Everyone is trying to open prefab. So they will spoil the quality and the expectations of the client. We have seen many models in other countries where they're splitting the package between MEP and civil as well as prefab. So the prefab, they will build the frame in their facilities, and the MEP will come and fix it inside their facility, as well as the civil will take care of installation. So that whole concept must be, yes, governed by a certain party in order just for everyone to be doing the right thing. Yes, we believe we need that at this point of time, because it's becoming a necessity to reduce the number of manpower for any project because of loss on time, as well as the compensation in terms of quality. This is very important nowadays, yes.
Tom, you also touched upon the fact that prefabrication has a direct impact on quality. Do you feel, like Mohammad says, that a regulatory approach can help this come to fruition?
Yes, it definitely would. I think the first step is to get all stakeholders on the same page. I think once you have from the supply chain all the way to the client, if everyone understands the benefits, understands that you're going to be getting a better quality product at the end of the day, then yes, you can start looking at rolling it out on a larger scale.
Rejil, will come to you next. How do you think that a regulatory approach can help?
Like you talked about all the stakeholders, you've got consultants, you've got contractors, you've got the clients, and there is one stakeholder who can stitch all of them together, and that's probably the regulatory body. I have been fortunate to kind of work with the Singapore government over the last 5 to 6 years. I've traveled there, I've had people come down here to see what we're doing in the last couple of years, and we've seen how they've driven it. They've rewritten the rule book. They have changed the way consultants think. They've changed the way materials are approved on a site. They've changed the way the approvals or the pre-qualifications for a contractor is given. They initially incentivized and said, if a contractor has the capability of prefabrication, then we will probably give him a better chance. And then, after doing all of this, now they started mandating. They've done the mandate. They started mandating on the civil part of it, and I'm told they're going to start looking at mandating even on the MEP part of it, saying that if you don't do prefabrication, you will not get a building permit. So that's how they bring this entire industry together. And what they do by doing this, getting this entire industry together, is to build a capability of the entire city or state to kind of come together and think in a different way. And they're able to break these larger silos which are there in this whole industry and able to get an advantage which is unparalleled. So certainly a regulatory authority intervention is going to be certainly very, very helpful.
Creating awareness, bringing different people together, coming out of our silos, working together, many things that need to be done, but how can a regulatory approach help all of those come to fruition? Avinash?
Yes, definitely it will help. Some sort of regulations, if it's in place, it's going to help. A lot of factors will decide that, like scale of the project and type of the project. And in a way, I've seen that in last 5 or 7 years, I'm seeing like a lot of contractors, when it comes to the tender submission, they propose that, okay, we'll be doing this as a prefabrication. So a lot of awareness can be seen from the contractors, and they being more proactive. I'm seeing that, okay, it's getting into the picture of overall construction industry, and definitely it will help.
Marina, to conclude, at AESG, as a consultant, how do you think a regulatory approach can help?
I think, as everyone is saying, it will really help. But I think going back again to the stakeholders, everyone needs to understand that the design is going to be done for a prefabrication. So then from consultants, the design team, contractors, all we are on the same page and moving forward to that. That's the key thing, because then that's the only way that you really can take the advantages of the prefabrication.
I think that's a fantastic way to conclude. Let's all get on the same page and let's drive that message out together. Thank you all for joining us on the show. It was an extremely informative and insightful discussion. For those of you watching, feel free to like, share, comment, and subscribe below. That's all for now, and until next time, goodbye.